Thank you very much there. It's quite fitting for where I'm at right now.
Where are you at?
I'm reporting from Washington D.C. I'm here on an internship.
Oh, excellent. Who are you interning with?
I'm interning for a media company called Broadband Breakfast.
Excellent. Well, good. So how are the cherry blossoms?
Oh, the cherry blossoms! If you look at my Facebook there, you'll see how amazing they are. They are even better than what you see in the pictures in real life when you get to
Uh,
see them.
I haven't been there, as you know, and we'll get there tomorrow. And I told my wife Wednesday morning I'm going to go out running around the basin and get to see them.
Yeah, that is wonderful. They're great and stuff. I love them. I've never seen them before, and so this
Oh,
was my
wow.
first time, and so it was
Good,
quite a delightful experience, I must say.
good.
Wonderful.
Well, let's jump in.
Yes, let's do that. So just to let you know here, Representative Curtis, I am recording this here, but it's just to help keep it for the work and to write on this here. And so I'll start off by introducing myself. I have 7 brief questions I want to ask you there.
Okay.
And so just 2 to 3 minutes or less on each one. I think then will be good to make sure we have time to answer each of them in this
Okay.
half hour that we have. And then if there is time at the end, we can go back to review them or go deeper or ask a few more questions depending on where we are. I will let you know that Broadband Breakfast, who I'm reporting on behalf of, I can assure you that we are committed to reporting the facts. And I know that every news organization says that. And in fact, I have to tell you, I once read uh, a thing on CNN where they said, we only report the facts. Well, I don't know if that's, you know, but we like to report exactly what's said to us. And I assure you that we have no secret political agenda that seeks to deceive or slander any political side. So let me share a little bit about myself here.
Okay.
I want to start off and let you know that my parents are both from American Fork, Michael and Janet Shumway. And my father just told me last night when I was talking to them after church yesterday, said that he very much enjoyed a talk that you gave recently on why Republicans should be more engaged in climate change. And my mother has told me, she said, that John, he is a friendly guy, I've heard. And I heard a clip from you when you did a debate, I think last November, October, so, and you thanked your staff and you thanked the people working for you and stuff. And I think that's true because I had an opportunity to go visit your office in Provo in November last year, and I had
Yep.
quite a good experience with Genevieve Rollins there. And so I'm here in Washington, D.C. under BYU's Washington Seminar Internship Program. And I'm interning for Broadband Breakfast. And it's a nonpartisan news outlet dedicated to covering the topics related to broadband. And it's based here in Washington, D.C. And in fact, I actually met some of your future interns that will be out in D.C. under the Washington Internship Program. So I support BYU, of course, there maybe because I go there. So I guess I'm biased in that sense. But I can assure you that these future students, I give them my best hope that they will be fantastic for you out here in DC.
Excellent.
So my first question here is, I read in your press release by your office, released back on February 16th, that 2 of your bills were introduced in a comprehensive package of 28 bills to facilitate broadband deployment on federal lands and closing the digital divide in both rural and urban areas, getting broadband to all areas, urban, rural. We know that that's critical to closing the digital divide. And so your bill calls to, quote, streamline the permitting processes. Because you say that duplicative regulations and inefficient practices are to blame. And so I wanted to ask, when it comes to rural broadband deployment in the rural areas of Utah, what is a specific major red tape issue that needs to be simplified or removed or addressed? Or what is preventing the progress in broadband in rural areas? And the second one is, what's the major red tape in urban broadband deployment? What is there a difference that you see between the two?
Great. My district is unique in the sense that when you get down into rural, 90% of the land is owned by the federal government. So it is far more complicated than the normal rural parts of the United States because these public lands are more heavily regulated. So for instance, it can take and has taken up to 9 years to permit across these federal lands. Well, in the broadband business, 9 years is a lifetime, right? So much can happen. And we don't have 9 years to get down into this parts of the district. So here's a hypothetical, you asked for one specific example. If we have an existing roadway, so there is a road, it's an asphalt road, we're not even allowed to go along the side of that road with broadband. It's treated the same as if we were trying to go under delicate arch with broadband and dig in a trench. And so we've got to acknowledge the difference between, yes, there's a road here, the road's already been approved, we've gone through the NEPA and everything like that. Let's get that broadband alongside that road. In the urban parts of my district, I actually spent quite a bit of time on this because as the mayor of Provo, we brought in Google Fiber. And that's where I learned some of the things that make it difficult. And companies like Google Fiber with vast resources are still slowed down and even sometimes stopped by the government. Sometimes this is actually not the federal government, but the state and the city. Pole attachments is a big deal. As they come in and want to attach to the poles, they're already there for the utilities. And sometimes cities can be overly burdened, their regulations overly burdensome in allowing them just to attach to those poles. So there's two really different types of examples of different types of regulation that make it very difficult to deploy broadband.
Oh, that's great. I like that you mentioned it's like with the rural, it's treated like as if we're trying to put a road under delicate arch that's going to destroy all sorts of things there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's great there. And so my next question is lessons learned from COVID-19 and the education needs in Utah. And I have to add that back home, when I end this internship, I'm actually going to be flying back to Utah in next Monday. So I've got 1 week left here in DC. I've been here since January. But one of my favorite jobs at home that I picked up recently was being a substitute teacher for Alpine School District under ESS. And I love that. I love doing K-6 public education and special needs and handicap there. And I've seen in the classroom just how heavy now kids use the laptops, and we have to depend on technology. And I'm very grateful that our schools are open, that we can still go to school. That's a whole different elephant in the room there. But now that we're 1 year into the COVID-19 pandemic, what have you learned about the importance of having adequate and affordable broadband in Utah households?
Well, I think the lesson is that the more disadvantaged a household is, the less likely they are to have good internet connectivity, but it goes beyond that, even the device. So we can work really hard to get internet connectivity to a house, but if they don't have a device, a laptop or a Chromebook or a very simple device, it does no good to have the internet. And a lot of times we overlook that. And then the other component is many children are at a disadvantage if they don't have a supportive structure in the home to help them. And here again, the more disadvantaged the home, the less likely they are to have that supportive structure. I know my grandkids have been taken care of by their parents and coddled and helped through this difficult time. I also know there's a lot of households where there's nobody there to do that help. If a child has a question, or if the internet's down or the device is not working, right, it just really can be a problem. So although we've learned there are tremendous uses for virtual learning and will probably never be quite the same, we've also learned that if not careful, it can really disadvantage those who are already starting a little bit behind the game.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering that there. I also want to ask you, so because I'm a college student, I'm majoring in political science with a minor in international strategy and diplomacy. I joke with my friends that I'm actually majoring in fake news, is what my degree is in. I don't know if you've heard that before, but I thought what a timely time to have a degree in political science with the events of the last year, or even of this year and stuff. And so, but as a college student, I've been to UVU as well. I started at UVU, got my associates and transferred to BYU. Um, when the pandemic hit, a lot of students had to go back to their apartments. And a lot of us depended on, now I did not particularly in my situation, but a lot of students had to depend on the, I guess what we could call lowly internet of their roommates in crowded apartments and stuff there. Do you have any thoughts on that about college students who are stuck at home in Utah? But what can we do to help them because they can't go to if they couldn't go to campus, or in general, what can we do about that when in-person college was not an option?
Yeah, really points out the value of, I would say, good competition. And what happens with good competition is prices come down and speeds go up, availability goes up. I know when we brought Google Fiber to Provo, one of the best benefits was even if somebody didn't use the Google Fiber, the competition's prices came way down and their speeds went up. And where we have areas without competition with just one provider, you're going to find slower speeds and higher prices. And that it's something that we've got to do is make sure the marketplace is conducive to everybody being able to come in and offer the best product. When that happens, you get high speeds and low prices.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that there. I have to ask you about when it comes to municipal-led broadband and getting into it with federal and stuff there. So what do you think is, how are we to go about this when it comes to, should cities be able to come up with their own broadband solutions? Is it right for any state or federal or the city to ban another company from coming and doing it there? What can you say about that there?
Well, I could write a book on this because of my experience with Provo City and being a mayor. I inherited a fiber network that was in trouble. And I learned several important lessons for cities that are considering this, cities, municipalities, or even states. We're really good as a city when we have several factors. When we have a monopoly, okay, so like Provo Power is a monopoly, right? So no wonder I'm good at it. And two, when technology doesn't change rapidly. If you look at the power industry, the technology has just not changed rapidly over the decades. The problem with broadband is that the technology changes so fast and needs recurring investment at such high levels that it is really, really problematic for municipalities. Our system was about 7 years old and I was trying to sell it. And vendor after vendor came to look at it and said it's worth nothing after 7 years, right? Because technology changes so quickly. Nobody could even have imagined a gig when our system went in, probably about 15 years ago. Well, we changed it and upgraded to a gig with Google Fiber 7 years ago. And already now a gig is like, right, so little. At the time we did it, it just seemed like so much. And so cities are going to really struggle as they try to do that for those reasons. They're just not adept at it. They don't move as quickly. They're adverse to risk. They don't have the large amounts of capital that it takes to do this. And that makes it very difficult. Now, I know a city right next to Spanish Fork has done it and they've done it successfully. So it can be done, but I see a lot more skeletons littered along the road than success stories. And I can just tell you firsthand, it's a different beast than what cities really are geared up for and are capable of doing.
All right, thank you there. I'm typing as fast as possible to record things, and that's why I'm grateful I can record this as well to come back and stuff there.
Good.
So I've covered, and my reporter coworkers in this Broadband Breakfast, we've covered intently all of the federal programs about broadband initiatives, $100 billion infrastructure plan that President Biden has been trying to encourage to be passed and stuff. And even before that, we had money being put into the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program and the Emergency Connectivity Fund and stuff there. What are your comments about these on the federal level? Are they enough? The problem that I hear from people is they say, well, which may be the same for any any money the government allocates, there's always the same group that says, oh, it's not enough money and it will never last a long time. It's only a band-aid. What more can we do? Do we need to throw more money at it? Or what can you comment about the federal initiatives for these large broadband flows?
Yeah, I wish I could just transport President Biden to Provo, Utah, and get him to come look around a little bit. We've had vast success in all parts of the district with broadband, and even down in the rural, taking advantage of some of the grants that are available to get there. And I would say, look, we're on track. The programs already in place are working and being successful. We could beef those up, but I just can't support hundreds of billions of dollars thrown at this thing when what we've already got is working. We can expand it and do more, but creativity and hard work make up for a multitude of sins. And where we're not getting broadband out to rural Utah, or rural America, we need to take a hard look at those parts of the country that are doing it and are doing it successfully. And look, throwing money at things solves nothing. That money well spent, money put exactly where it's needed, is far more important than just throwing gobs of money at this thing.
All right, that's great there. Thank you. Looking to the future for people who are currently struggling with good internet access, right, and who don't have it, who have it and it's just not good enough. What can you say, whether it's a message of hope or things to expect, or what can someone who struggles in Provo or even American Fork where I live, or down south in the perhaps more rural areas, what can we look forward to for those that lack good internet?
Well, if they're struggling in Provo, we have to have a serious talk, because we've got some of the best internet connectivity, and it's even, Google Fiber still offers free service to anybody who wants it. And you can get that gig speed, not just from Google, but from a number of sources at a very reasonable price. But there are parts of the state, parts of the country where we don't have as good a connectivity. And I would just say, look, we are rapidly upgrading our system throughout the country, our infrastructure, and it's amazing what's happening. We need to keep investing and keep moving forward. We need to, as a government, we've got to get out of the way. We've got to cut down on regulations. The free marketplace is putting far more money into this than the government could ever put into it, and doing it more effectively. And the best thing we can do as a government is not slow them down.
All right, thank you so much there. Now, looking at Congress in a whole broad, I realize now I've been able to ask quite a few questions beyond the initial 7, but you're doing great, so I appreciate it here. Is Congress illiterate with tech, in the sense that, many of them don't know how to tweet or to post on Facebook, or even make the very popular TikToks and send Snapchat? So what can it do, or what should congressmen and congresswomen do to be more familiar with tech, especially so they can better regulate big tech and perhaps not ask silly questions to tech CEOs?
You may be referring to a Senate hearing we had a year or 2 ago, where it was very embarrassing, the questions that were asked. And look, I'm not of the demographic where this comes easily, but I've learned that the best thing I can do is download these apps and use them myself, become familiar with them. And we have, in our office, we've invited all of these big tech firms to come and do a deep dive with us on their specific issues. There are some serious issues in front of Congress now, dealing with data privacy, dealing with censorship, and we've got to get it right. And the only way we're going to get it right is if members of Congress become far more diligent in studying these issues. So members of Congress, we got a lot of work to do ahead of us. If I can do it, you can do it. And constituents keep pushing us to better understand, keep educating us. And it's a fast changing world. You can learn one app and next week it's displaced by another app, right? And if you're not moving quickly, you won't stay up with these.
Thank you for answering that there. Okay, I have two last questions. I think we're good to go here.
All right.
Let me start off here. So I'll tell you what both questions are, and you can answer them in whatever order you'd like.
Okay.
The first one would be, what is one of your this is just because I'm just so grateful that we can meet and stuff. I'm so excited. I told my friends and family, I bragged to all my other BYU student friends here at the Milton A. Barlow Center is where we live here. It's on right on K Street and Pennsylvania Avenue by the Egyptian Embassy. And um, I have a few other student friends here who work for Senator Lee's office, and the rest of us are spread around doing other jobs around the area, which are all fantastic. And so, tell me, what is one of your favorite parts about being a member of Congress? And then the second part was, what is a myth about Congress for anyone that people think, oh, Congress does this or Congress does this, but then you think, oh, this is actually not what we do, or this really is what we do to help share, to enlighten about your job and stuff. So favorite part, and then one of your favorite parts, or a myth about Congress that will help make us think, wow, that's pretty cool that you do. Because I'm quite interested in learning about that.
So I'll combine those two because I think they're very related. The myth is that we all hate each other. We don't work together. We don't get along, and there's no bipartisan work going on. And then my favorite part about Congress is the bipartisan work that's getting along. My friendships, both with Republicans and Democrats, these are amazing people on both sides of the aisle. And there's a Democratic member of Congress, he and I have worked together, who he didn't initially support my bill. And we just kept meeting and talking and working together. And before COVID, he doesn't do it now, but before COVID, every time he saw me, he'd stop, set his things down and give me a hug. And that's just amazing, the relationships. And that's the myth that needs to be broken, is that everybody is out on the extremes, not working together. That's what you hear on the cable networks, right? It's what they want you to believe. Unfortunately, the people that work together and get along don't make news. The people that yell and scream at each other, that makes news. And I want people to know there's a lot more of that goodwill going around than they would think.
That's great there. In fact, I just was talking with some of my classmates the other day, and they're saying maybe this is them buying into the myth. I don't know. They said, well, that's a problem, is that Congress is too afraid to do bipartisan stuff because they'll get so much fire from their own party to say, why would you do such a thing with the Democrats, or why would you do such a thing with the Republicans? You should do it with your own people. And unless you get it with your own party, then they won't support it. And the media just doesn't like to fly the story of bipartisan because that's not exciting. And you'd rather have that with your own party, all these multiple co-sponsors, or even, I don't know, if someone eats out together for lunch.
So I can tell you this, when I go to a town hall meeting, they want to know why we're not working together more. And when I tell them about times we work together, I get applauded. So at least in my district, my constituents want us to work together and find solutions across the aisle.
All right, that's great. Okay, I will ask one last question here because I'm just so excited here. Just tell me, what's one of your favorite restaurants in Provo? Where would you like to go to eat, Representative Curtis?
So this is the worst question, right? Because it's like saying, which is your favorite child?
Oh, yeah.
I love them all. They were just amazing. But if I were just to pick today, based upon what I'm hungry for today, I'd go down to Guru's. And then I'd go over to Rockwell's and get some ice cream over there.
Now, I have eaten at both of those, Guru's and Rockwell's. Very good ice cream, a very good cafe there. I would have gotten easy and said I like JCW's. They've got a couple locations in American Fork and Provo there. So
yeah, you can't go wrong anywhere. You can't go wrong in Provo, can you?
That's great. Well, this has been a real delight there meeting with you. I appreciate very kindly you being able to meet with me today.
It's going to cost you. I'm going to ask you a favor.
Oh, yes, please.
Well, let's stop recording because it's personal in nature.
Certainly. Let me stop this here. With the recording, would you be okay if I shared that with others, or if that was
public
recording?
That's not a problem at all.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.